Hey, everybody, it is Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the, Scott,
Hump day.
edition of Today in Sports Betting. Part one, we're going to take a look at the exciting games in college, Scott, and that it totals absolutely how many?
One.
One. Yeah, that's right. We were going to take a look at the Xavier game, and of course, it's been canceled.
Well,
So,
Xavier's playing Villanova, of course, and that's always a big rivalry. But unfortunately, COVID got in the way. So
yeah, yeah. So no Battle of Philly. But we do have the Battle of Texas, Scott, and this is two. Would you call them surprising teams at this point? I mean, probably not Texas Tech, but you think Shaka Smart with hair? You think the number 4 ranked Texas Longhorns, is that a surprise?
definitely. Everyone went into the season thinking Kansas and Texas Tech and Baylor, mostly Baylor, were going to be the big three in the conference. And then Texas comes out earlier in the year. I know they beat North Carolina in the finals of a tournament by a buzzer beater. And I know North Carolina has played a little bit better, but I saw Texas barely win. And I thought, well, the Texas team might not be that good. And then they ended up going into Kansas and winning by, I don't know, 4,000. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this Texas team's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they scrape by Davidson. They scrape by North Carolina. They lose to Nova.
West Virginia on the road, though.
You're like, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, though. You lose to Villanova at home. That game was close throughout, but they ended up losing. It's the only loss they have.
Right, right.
But
And, you know,
you beat Kansas and West Virginia on the road. I mean, at some point, you got to give the Longhorns some props.
sure. And they're doing that. So, yeah, we'll take a look at this one. I don't have my you and I sat and did a bunch of pregame stuff, and I didn't get the lines up. Scott, what's the line on this one?
So this line has dropped a little bit. Texas is still a home favorite slightly, but it has gone from -3.5 to around -2. And the total has gone from 132.5 to around 131. Still some 132s, but mostly 131.
Yeah, I've got it at 132 juice though. So
What's the juice on that? Like 120?
120. Yep, 6 to 5. So, and yeah, I've got the minus 2 for Texas. So let's start with the question. You talk about these road wins. How much of the sheen is off of road wins with no crowds?
The truth is, I think there is some sheen lost, but I still think they're valuable. You still have a bunch of college kids who have to travel. People
Right.
talk about how big the crowds are and how that pumps up the home crowd and the home team, and don't get me wrong, that's correct. But you have a bunch of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds taking buses and planes all over the place and staying in places they're not used to being in. There's a certain comfort to staying local, and I think having to travel all the time definitely does play a factor to some degree. So I do
Yeah.
think that winning on the road matters, but it definitely doesn't matter as much as it does in previous seasons.
Yeah, Austin to Morgantown is still a long way, whether there's COVID or not. That's still a hell of a trip.
Like, I'm not going to think less of their win in Morgantown because there's not any fans there. Of course, it would be harder with fans there, but it's still a tough place to play regardless of how many fans are there. I think you'd agree with that.
I don't know that I would. Why is it a tough place to play if there's no
You know what I'm
fans?
saying, with the travel and everything.
Oh, okay. So just you're talking about the whole in
All the
trip.
variables involved.
Okay. That I would agree with.
Yeah. So
I
for
don't-
that reason, I still think they're impressive wins. But, of course, I'm not going to say, well, no, I wouldn't say Kentucky because Kentucky's not a good example because that team's terrible. But it's a matter of, oh, yeah, Alabama hasn't won in Rupp in like 9 years.
Right.
Well, when you look at those kind of stats, it's like a team hasn't beaten Duke at home and on the road in 20-something years. Well, because you don't have the crazies going nuts. So I think there are some factors there that you have to keep in mind where some wins might be overvalued. But I still think they're more valuable than home wins.
Do you think Kansas would have lost by 25 at home with a full crowd?
Probably not, but the truth is, if you watch that game, Kansas couldn't hit a shot anyway.
No.
I mean, sometimes you just can't hit water if you fell out of a boat. So I think they would have lost the game. 25 is a bit much. But still, I give Texas full props to going into, Allen and getting the job done. So I can't really criticize them for it.
All right. Good enough. All right. So now we've got a Texas Tech team that's they've really just got they don't really have any bad losses. They've got a loss to Houston, they've got a loss to Kansas, and they've got a loss to an up and coming Oklahoma State, Scott, that made us look foolish last night. We kind of thought Kansas was going to look like they were going to bounce back after their victory over the weekend. you and I both liked them over Oklahoma State. That's not the way that worked out.
Still don't know what to think of this Oklahoma State team. At the end of the day, this team has blown so many big leads in conference play. It's actually embarrassing. They were up. We said it was 18 against West Virginia at home in the second half in that game, and they lost.
Right.
They're up 16 with 9 minutes to go. How are you down 1 with 4 to go?
I know.
You blew a 16-point lead in 5 minutes. I don't even know how you do that.
It takes an effort. It really does.
It does. You have to actually know exactly what to do so you can do the opposite just to blow a lead that quickly. But they won the game. I'll give them props for it. But Oklahoma State's talented. But that late game, I don't know what's going on in the second half there, but they can't close games out to save their lives. They did against Texas Tech, though. They won in overtime. But
right.
Still.
And they did against Kansas.
Yeah. I think Texas Tech's a good team. But Chris Beard's MO is we play really good defense and our offense is meh.
Yeah.
I think that's how you'd agree with Texas Tech.
Both these teams play really good defense, and they play exceptional 3-point defense. It's hard to score on these teams from deep. So how do you see this one going?
Truth is, I know this total's extremely low, and I know people will be scared of it. I gotta take the under. It's just you look at these two teams, and both these teams defensively are fantastic. I know that Texas Tech's offense has picked it up a little bit lately. However, Kansas State not good, Iowa State not good, and I also know Texas Tech shot the lights out in that game. You know Texas is going to bring a very, very elite defensive effort into this matchup. Both teams, statistically, Texas Tech's giving up 58 points per game. Texas is giving up 63.7 points per game. These teams defensively are fantastic. And if you also want to talk about the pace of both teams, you know Texas Tech doesn't exactly like to play a fast run-and-gun style of basketball. So I do think that they'll try to take the air out of it. They're ranked 287th in pace of play. I know Texas does rank a little bit higher in that department. At least I believe they do. They rank 180th. So I think Texas Tech will slow it to a crawl. I think you'll see both teams probably shoot a bunch of bricks from the outside. And I think this game should turn into a rock fest. Do you agree with that?
You know, on the surface, I think you could be right. But you look at the totals that they've given up.
Yeah, recently the games have been high scoring with these two teams. I just think that based on those results, wouldn't you agree that this total seems absurdly low?
Well, I do agree with that. I mean, you know, giving up 82 to Oklahoma State, giving up 71 to Kansas State, I don't know. That's maybe a little troubling for me as far as Texas Tech goes, because that is a really bad K-State squad.
Sounds like you like Texas to cover the spread.
I do. You know, the Texas Tech has been as good as they are. I think they've been overvalued all season. They've failed to cover in 7 of their last 8. Finally got off the schneid against a dreadful Iowa State team. So it's hard to get behind them covering the number for sure. I think when all is said and done at the end of the day, I like Texas. I like Texas to take care of business here, laying the 2 points, and I'm probably laying off the total, Scott. I think that 132. You know, I'd probably like it if it was a little bit 136. I might be interested in getting involved there, but 132, you know, you have one of those 10-minute runs where they can't miss from 3-point land, or somebody gets in foul trouble for one of the halves, and all of a sudden your total is screwed. So are you officially playing the under here?
No. I'm just talking about if I was looking at the game, what stands out to me. I think the under stands out because both teams recently have had, I'd say, a little bit more higher scoring games than you'd be accustomed to.
Right.
But Texas defensively still only gave up 59 points to Kansas. I mean, I know that they have the ability to shut it down. I think that Texas and Texas Tech should have an all-out war here. I think if you want to see a very competitive game, this game should be close, in my opinion, for all 40. Having said all that, I have to lean to Texas as well, minus the 2. Quick, I'd say riddle or something. If you have two teams that are elite defensively and you don't trust either offense, what's the main variable you look for? For me, it's rebounding.
Yeah.
I think whichever team's going to dominate the boards and create more opportunities for possessions is going to win the game. Texas is averaging roughly 4 more rebounds per game. So even though Texas Tech does have solid guard play with McClung and some other guys in there, the interior, not that great. Texas does have a couple guys who can rebound the ball well, and I think if they can create enough chances to either get easy putbacks, get to the foul line, force Texas Tech into foul trouble, I think Texas could get some free baskets that Texas Tech cannot also have the luxury of getting. So I'll lean to Texas for that reason.
All right. How high would you play? That's -2 right now. How many would you give?
I would probably play it up to -3, but
Okay.
I wouldn't go much higher than that. You?
Okay. I was thinking maybe 3.5, but that would be my absolute ceiling on that.
Well, you have to wonder why there's been line movement on Texas Tech, and the main things that I could think of are the fact that Texas Tech, of course, made the finals, made the title game the last tournament that was actually played. So
Mm-hmm.
people still think that Texas Tech is in another level, and that Texas hasn't been that relevant in basketball, or had real relevance in a long period of time.
Right.
But looking at Texas this season, it's really tough to argue with the resume. This team is just very, very good.
Yeah, only a tough loss to Villanova on their score sheet as far as a loss goes, and everything else. They've been able to take care of business, and they've been able to take care of business against a couple of sneaky teams that were able to get past Texas Tech. They were able to take care of business against Oklahoma State, and they were again a 25-point victory over KU. And you talk about KU being cold. Sure, but they're still KU, and Texas did a lot of things right in that game. You don't go cold shooting in a bubble. A lot of times there's circumstances that force you to go cold, and I think you got to give Texas a little bit of credit for that cold streak for Kansas. So.
Yep, I agree. But just to ask, just a quick, let's say a wrap up thing here.
Okay.
Looking at the conference. I'm assuming we both agree that Baylor is the best team in the conference. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think it's like a NASCAR race where you've got one guy out in front and everybody else is just banging around trying to get second place, and the guy in front's just clapping his hands, laughing his ass off.
It sounds like Kevin Harvick for most of the season, but yes,
it really does.
But looking at the other teams, is Texas the second best team in the conference? Because I think they are
right now. They appear to be. Yeah. Of course, KU. We talked about them before, and they often have a mid-season swoon. And
we thought it was over already, but apparently it's not.
Right. Yeah. We absolutely thought it was over. And maybe this season it won't be over. Maybe this is the year that KU just stumbles down the stretch and finishes 5th. I don't think so, but, stranger things have happened. So
let me ask you a question, by the way. Is there anything better in college basketball than Duke, Kentucky, and Kansas losing on the same day?
Could throw North Carolina in there, and then you would.
They almost lost.
I would have had a clean sweep, but no, I like chaos. I don't like the blue bloods, and of course, I don't know how much of that is brought on by the fact that I don't root for a blue blood. My team is natural rivals. Both my teams are natural rivals with KU. Never liked Calipari. Never liked Kentucky. Not a big Duke fan, certainly not a Roy Williams fan. So.
I still don't know Duke was ranked 19th. We talked about it on air yesterday, and we were making a bunch of jokes about it. But I think they proved our point. That team's not good.
No, they're not good. You have any idea how many weeks they've been ranked in a row?
Duke? Oh, boy. I don't know. I'm sure – I don't remember what year it was, but they did have a bit of a down period for, I'd say, about 2 weeks or so. Where if you
That's what I was trying to think. If they'd had a long enough dry spell to drop them out of the rankings.
I'm not sure, but that's not a top 25 team in the country.
No.
Virginia Tech is good, though. I'll give Virginia Tech props. That team's pretty good. But we both knew that already.
Yep.
So, and we both know Kentucky's probably not going to make the tournament.
I don't see how they do.
I don't see it either. Unless they go absolutely nuts and potentially, of course, not automatically winning the conference tournament. Like, we're not talking about that because that's a guaranteed entry.
Right.
But I don't see it. That team can't shoot.
Which is certainly possible in the SEC. I don't know. Who am I missing in the SEC that's head and shoulders this year? You thought, for a while you thought Florida. Mm.
Well, Kentucky, I got to give Florida a pass because their best player, of course, isn't playing. Right now, the best you got Tennessee, I guess, is the class.
Yeah.
You got Alabama, who's 5-0. I think Alabama had some injuries yesterday, which are pretty brutal. I know Herb got injured, which is not going to help them long term. But it's possible for Kentucky, but I don't see it. You're going through the line here. I know Missouri was ranked. I know they haven't been good in conference play. But you got Tennessee and Bama. I know it's a down year for the SEC, but that Kentucky team is just
– they're awful.
I made a post about it just on how Calipari is a great recruiter. Is he even an above average basketball coach? Not including recruiting, just solely based on basketball? What is he, slightly above average?
That's where I'd put him.
Like I don't know how you can get 5-star recruits every single year. I know you won a title. I know you lost in a title game and stuff like that. I know you won with Anthony Davis. Congratulations, you had a generational big man. But I don't know.
I'd take either one of these coaches tonight over Calipari in-game as an in-game coach. I'd take Beard or I'd take Shaka Smart.
I still hold it against Calipari for not running the table. I know that I went to Wisconsin and all. I have no idea how the 38-1 team lost to Wisconsin. I have no idea. On paper, that was the most talented team I've seen in a long period of time. And they just didn't know how to respond to Wisconsin.
Right.
I have no idea, but I've never been a big Calipari guy. Don't get me wrong, I respect that he's a great recruiter, and I'm not taking that away from him, and that's a huge part of college basketball. In games, though, does he really do anything?
No, he doesn't seem to push the right buttons. He doesn't seem to respond well to in-game to situational play. You know, that's what you're talking about with Wisconsin. When you face that defense, you've got to make adjustments, and yeah, that's not really Calipari's thing. He throws his 7 or 8 guys out there, and if they don't do it,
I think his move is to just have tantrums on the sideline, and that's kind of it.
I think you bitch about his schedule in the press conference afterwards.
Yeah, you have that too. I made the schedule too difficult or too okay.
Whatever.
Maybe,
right.
Oh, he throws his player under the bus for crying on the bench because his team's terrible. It's like, yeah, I understand that you want to send a message. Maybe if you just did a better job coaching up these players, you wouldn't be 4-7. Just a thought.
All right, Scott. 20 minutes ago, you said we were wrapping up. So let's.
Well, anyway, that was the point I was going to make. It was just involving the Blue Bloods and how they're not as good as they usually are.
I agree, and I take great joy of it. I like chaos at the top. That's nothing is more fun for me. So
I agree.
All right, so to wrap this up, this time for real, we're both on Texas in this one.
Yeah, I'd lean Texas,
and we're just going to lay off the total.
I'm leaning under in it, but it's kind of like the Wisconsin-Michigan game yesterday where we both looked at it and said, this number's really low. I can see it going both ways. And, well, it ended up barely going under yesterday in that game, but it's a similar total here. I'll lean under. Not thrilled. But would it shock you if you saw like a 62-59 game? Probably.
No, not at all. By the way, that Michigan team is pretty good.
Yes, they are. I've been trying to tell you. I've been trying to get you on board on the Wolverines. And I think everything that I roasted Wisconsin for was 100% accurate. Like, I think it was just all right. That team can't shoot. They have nobody who can create their own shot besides Trice. It's just painful to watch.
No, and they're just painful to watch, especially in the paint. Just
correct.
Ugly.
But Michigan's Final Four team, probably.
All right, so there you go. Any other games today stand out for you, Scott? Anything else you like?
Well, I already have a play of the day video on matchup in the SEC. So if you want a game that is between two, I'd say well-known programs, not good programs this year, but still pretty well-known, you have a game there. Other than that, though, really not much. Just going through the brief card here. No, I don't really see much to talk about. I'm interested in the Tulsa-Wichita State game, but that's mostly just for a watching perspective, because I do think that Tulsa team might be able to make a little bit of noise, potentially as a sleeper there. I know they beat Houston earlier this year. Wichita has looked pretty good as well. But those two teams, potential dark horses to win the AAC. I still think Houston's the best team in the conference by far, but I'm interested in it. I'll be watching it, but in terms of plays, no, not really. I don't really see much that stands out. You have anything? I know you have a premium and some other stuff, but
I've got a couple premiums from the college ranks, and my play of the day is from the NBA. So yeah, nothing else really grabbed me. Kind of just.
I find it interesting. There has been some money on NC State against Florida State. I do find that fascinating because Florida State, we both know at home, tends to just take care of business. I know it ended up losing to UCF outright by 12, and it was a 14.5-point favorite. But NC State's lost each of its last 2 games. Not really playing that well. Florida State's, of course, the more talented team. I think 3.5 might be a little bit too low there. You have any thoughts on that one?
No, I think that there could be some value there. I'm also tempted by the Northwestern Wildcats catching 8 at Ohio State. I think this is
Did we ever talk about that second half against Illinois, by the way?
no.
You know what I'm talking about?
Refresh me.
Northwestern played Illinois, and Northwestern was at home. They were up about 15 at the half. They got outscored 53-13 in the second half.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever talked about that. But Northwestern, they've started to slow down a little bit.
Right.
The truth is, Ohio State killed me over the weekend personally because I had some action on Rutgers because Ohio State was missing its starting point guard. That Ohio State team is good.
Okay.
I'll give it to them. That team's pretty good. But I do agree that Northwestern might be a little bit undervalued, but it has lost each of its last 3 games. So
Right.
very good competition. But this Ohio State team, though, that team's pretty good.
All right. I'm just not sure they're 8 points better. And they certainly could be. Like I said, that wouldn't stun me if they covered, but yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on. And I don't share your affinity for Wichita State, by the way. I think they've really struggled without Marshall. I mean, maybe they're starting to put it together a little bit there.
I'm saying they've won. I think it's won like 5 of its last 6 or something. It's I believe 3-1 in conference play or something. It has looked better lately, but I think that Tulsa team's not bad.
If I was going to play that, I'd play Tulsa money line plus 150.
Truth is, I wrote an article about it. I leaned Tulsa plus the points, but I think Tulsa's not that bad.
No, they're not. They're not at all. Very good team. So, All right, bud. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for more information on this game or any other games that we've talked about, don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com. Deep dives every game, every single day, always free, always there for you. winnersandwhiners.com. And, don't forget to stay tuned for our part 2 as we take a look at the TV games in the NBA and then throw in any thoughts that we might have about anything else that catches our eye. But that's going to do it for this show. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Whiners. Appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop us a comment or two. Let us know what you're playing today. Appreciate it. Good luck on all of your plays. Hope every single one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. Guys, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Today in Sports Betting. Bye-bye.